A billionaire saved two twin sisters who were being chased by a drunk man and took them to his luxury apartment. When he came back from work, he was paralyzed by what he found. The roar of the Lamborghini Urus cut through the rainy night silence in Manhattan. Jack Morrison, 35, knuckles tense on the Italian leather steering wheel, watched raindrops dance in the headlights of passing cars. Another exhausting day of endless meetings at Morrison Enterprises. His tech empire wouldn't build itself. A sharp scream ripped through the night. Jack slammed on the brakes, tires squealing against the wet asphalt. His green eyes scanned the deserted street, looking for the source of the sound. There, at the dark entrance of an alleyway, two small figures cowered against a brick wall. "Get back here, you ungrateful little br—" The hoarse, drunken voice was interrupted by the sound of breaking glass. A staggering man emerged from the shadows, holding a broken bottle. The yellowish streetlight revealed his swollen, red face, eyes clouded with hatred and alcohol. Jack did not hesitate. In seconds, he was out of the car, cold rain drenching his $10,000 Armani suit. "Hey!" His voice thundered through the alley. "Stay away from them." The man turned clumsily. "Mind your own business, playboy." "They're my daughters. I do what I want with them." Jack took a step forward, his nearly 2-meter frame intimidating even from a distance. Years of jiu-jitsu and boxing had sculpted his body into solid muscle. "Last chance. Back off." "Go to hell!" The man lunged, bottle raised. Jack moved with the precision of years of training. He dodged the clumsy strike, grabbed the attacker's wrist and twisted. The bottle clattered to the ground. Within seconds, he had the man pinned against the wall, arm twisted behind his back. "Let me go. They're my daughters. I have the right—" "You have the right to a prison cell," Jack snarled. "What's your name?" Robert Miller," the man spat out. "And those ungrateful brats are mine. Emily, Olivia, get over here now." The two girls shrank back even further. Under the streetlight, Jack could see they were identical. Soaking wet brown hair, framing pale, terrified faces, probably no more than 12 years old. Their worn-out dresses were soaked and dirty. "Call the police," Jack ordered the closest one. "Now?" The girl was shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone he tossed to her. Her sister clung to her, wide eyes fixed on their struggling father. "You don't need to be afraid," Jack said gently, keeping Robert restrained with no visible effort. "He won't hurt you anymore." "You don't understand," one of them whispered. "He always finds us." "Always? Not this time," Jack promised. He could feel fury rising in his chest. How could someone do this to his own daughters? "What's your name?" "Emily," she replied softly. "And this is my sister, Olivia." "Nice to meet you, Emily and Olivia. I'm Jack Morrison, and I promise I'll keep you safe." Robert laughed, a harsh and cruel sound. "How you can't protect them forever, playboy. They're mine. I'll find them wherever you hide them." Jack increased the pressure on the twisted arm, making Robert groan. "Care to bet on that?" Sirens began sounding in the distance. Emily was still clutching the phone as if it were a bomb about to explode. Olivia hadn't said a word, her eyes glazed, staring into the distance. "The police are coming," Jack said gently. "You're very brave. Now I need you to trust me, okay? I'm taking you somewhere safe." Emily bit her lip, hesitant. "How can we trust you?" The question hit Jack like a punch. Of course they wouldn't trust a stranger easily, not after what they'd been through. "Because unlike him," Jack nodded at Robert, "I'm asking you to trust me, not demanding it. The choice is yours." The twins exchanged a loaded glance, the kind of silent communication only very close siblings develop. Finally, Emily nodded. "Okay," she whispered. "We trust you." The sirens were closer now. Jack could see red and blue lights reflecting in the puddles on the ground. "My daughters," Robert tried once more, his voice cracking. "Please." "They're not your property," Jack growled. "They're human beings, and you'll never lay a finger on them again." The first police cruiser rounded the corner, tires screeching. Within minutes, the alley was filled with officers. Jack handed Robert over to them, quickly explaining the situation. His name opened doors. The Morrisons were known for generous donations to the police department. Mr. Morrison, a detective approached. We need the girls' statements. Tomorrow, Jack said firmly. They need medical attention and rest first. I'm taking them to my apartment. You can meet me there in the morning. The detective hesitated but nodded. Nobody questioned Jack Morrison for long. Robert was being placed into the squad car, handcuffed and still stumbling. You can't do this. They're my daughters. Mine. Emily and Olivia flinched at the sound of his shouting. Jack positioned himself between them and the police car, blocking their view. Come on, he said softly. My car's right over there. Let's get out of this cold. The twins followed him hesitantly to the Lamborghini. Emily was still gripping her sister's hand tightly, as if afraid they'd be separated any moment. Is that your car? Olivia spoke for the first time. Eyes wide at the luxurious SUV, Jack smiled, opening the back door. Yes, it is. Do you like it? The girls exchanged looks again before climbing inside, their drenched dresses staining the Italian leather. Jack didn't care, those were just material things. Where are you taking us? Emily asked when he got into the driver's seat. My apartment on 5th Avenue, Jack answered, starting the car. It's the safest place I know. There's 24-hour security, cameras everywhere. Robert will never get close to you there. Why are you doing this? Olivia's voice was barely audible. Why are you helping us? Jack caught her eyes in the rearview mirror. Because it's the right thing to do and because no one deserves to go through what you did. The rest of the drive was silent. Jack could see the twins whispering to each other occasionally, probably trying to decide if they could really trust him. He didn't blame them. Their lives clearly hadn't been kind so far. As they pulled into the underground parking of the luxury building, Emily let out a muffled exclamation. Wow, you live here? In the penthouse, Jack confirmed, parking the car. Come on, I'll show you. The private elevator took them straight to the top floor. When the doors opened, the twins gaped. The two-story penthouse was a spectacle of glass, steel and marble, with a panoramic view of Central Park. Welcome to your new home, Jack said softly. For as long as you need. Emily and Olivia looked at each other again, a million emotions on their identical faces. Fear, hope, distrust, gratitude, all mixed in their young eyes that had already seen too much. Thank you, Emily whispered at last, squeezing her sister's hand, for everything. Jack felt something tighten in his chest. Here were two children who had gone through hell at the hands of the person who should have protected them. Two girls who, despite it all, still found the strength to trust and be thankful. In that moment, Jack Morrison, billionaire, CEO, most powerful man in Manhattan, made a silent promise. No matter the cost, no matter how long it took, he would ensure Emily and Olivia never had to be afraid again. The rescue had been only the beginning. The real battle, fighting to heal broken hearts and rebuild shattered trust, was just beginning. But for the first time in a long while, there was hope in the eyes of the Miller twins. And for Jack, that was priceless. The penthouse was silent except for the gentle sound of rain against the windows. Jack watched the twins, still soaked and shivering, looking in awe at the luxury apartment. You must be cold, he said kindly. I'll show you where you can take a hot shower. Emily nodded, still clinging tightly to Olivia's hand. Jack led them down the hallway to a spacious guest suite. There are clean towels in the closet, he explained, opening drawers, and... Oh, wait a second. Jack disappeared briefly and returned with two of his own t-shirts. I know these will be huge on you, but it's better than those wet clothes. Tomorrow we'll get you something that fits. Thank you, Emily whispered. Olivia remained silent, her eyes roaming around the luxurious room. I'll fix something for you to eat while you shower, Jack said. Take as long as you need. As soon as he closed the door, Jack pulled out his phone and made 3 quick calls. To his private physician, to a child psychologist specializing in trauma, and to his personal assistant with a list of urgently needed items. In the kitchen, he prepared hot chocolate and sandwiches. His thoughts wandered to the man in the alley, Robert Miller. How could someone hurt his own daughters? The sound of soft footsteps brought him back to the present. The twins emerged wearing his t-shirts like improvised dresses, their wet hair combed. They looked even smaller like that, swallowed by the loose fabric. "Better?" Jack asked, gesturing toward the high stools at the counter. Emily managed a small smile, the first he had seen, and climbed onto one of the stools. Olivia followed her like a silent shadow. "Hot chocolate?" he offered. "I made some sandwiches too." The girls looked at the food with a mix of longing and hesitation. "Can we really?" Emily began. "Of course," Jack replied gently. "It's all for you." They ate slowly at first, as if afraid the food would be snatched away at any moment. Gradually, hunger won out. Jack noticed how Emily occasionally pushed more food toward her sister, making sure Olivia ate first. The doorbell rang, causing them both to jump. "It's okay," Jack reassured them. "It's just Dr. Sarah Chen, my private doctor. We need to make sure you're okay." Dr. Chen was a petite, middle-aged woman with a gentle smile. "Hello, girls. May I take a look at you?" Emily glanced at Jack, who nodded encouragingly. "Okay," she answered for both of them. The examination took place right there in the living room, with all the care and delicacy possible. Jack watched as Emily answered the doctor's questions, while Olivia only nodded or shook her head. "Some bruises and minor scrapes," Dr. Chen reported afterward. "Nothing broken, thankfully, but they're malnourished and exhausted. They need rest and good nutrition." She left prescriptions and detailed recommendations. She had barely left when the second visitor arrived. Dr. Maria Santos, a psychologist specializing in child trauma. "We won't have a formal session today," she explained to the girls. "I just want to get to know you a little. Is that okay?" During that initial talk, the different personalities of the twins began to emerge more clearly. Emily, though cautious, answered questions and occasionally even smiled. Olivia remained silent, responding only with gestures, her eyes always alert like a frightened animal. "That's normal," Dr. Santos explained to Jack afterward. "Trauma affects different people in different ways. Emily takes on the protector role, speaking for both. Olivia has withdrawn as a defense mechanism. It will take time and gentle care to regain their trust." When the psychologist left, Jack found the twins dozing on the couch, exhausted. He covered them with a soft blanket and sat in a nearby armchair, determined to stand guard. His phone buzzed. A message from his assistant confirming that the morning deliveries were set. Clothes, toiletries, school supplies, everything two 12-year-old girls might need. The next steps were already forming in his mind. Reinforce building security, handle legal documentation, find a good school. But for now, he watched the twins sleeping peacefully, maybe for the first time in a long while. Emily shifted in her sleep, her hand instinctively reaching for her sister. Even asleep, her protective instinct didn't rest. Olivia, on the other hand, had her face buried in her sister's shoulder, as if trying to hide from the world. The rain continued outside, but in here they were safe. Jack knew the road would be long. Broken trust isn't rebuilt overnight. But looking at those two brave girls, he was sure he would do anything to protect them. Morning brought a series of deliveries. Jack watched the twins' eyes widen at the piles of bags. "Are these B for us?" Olivia asked, her voice almost a whisper. "All for you," Jack confirmed. "Clothes, shoes, school supplies. We need to make sure you have everything you need." Emily picked up a delicate blouse, her fingers stroking the soft fabric as if it were something precious. "We've never had new clothes before," she murmured. Jack felt his heart clench. "Well, you do now, and this is just the beginning." While the girls timidly explored their new belongings, Jack organized security. Additional cameras were installed, the alarm system reinforced. The building's security staff received pictures of Robert Miller with strict orders. "No one enters without prior authorization," he instructed the chief of security. "And I want to be notified of any suspicious activity immediately." The following hours were devoted to establishing a routine. Dr. Santos returned for a more formal session, this time meeting each twin separately. "Emily has strong coping mechanisms," she reported afterward. "She channeled her fear into protecting her sister, but she's carrying a huge burden for someone so young. And Olivia? Her selective mutism is a response to severe trauma. She only communicates with her sister. It will take a lot of time and patience for her to feel safe again. Jack nodded, watching the twins through the glass door to the balcony. They were seated side by side on a lounge chair, Emily reading a new book out loud to Olivia. What's the best way to help them? Consistency, the psychologist replied. Establish routines, keep promises, even the small ones. They need to relearn that they can trust adults. That afternoon, a private tutor came to evaluate the girls' educational level. As expected, there were huge gaps. School had never been a priority in their previous life. Emily shows a natural ease with numbers, the tutor reported, and Olivia, though she doesn't speak, demonstrated excellent reading comprehension. With proper attention, they can catch up. Jack noticed every small progress, how Emily began to relax slightly during meals, no longer hiding food in her pockets, how Olivia, still quiet, started exploring the apartment when she thought no one was watching. At night, he prepared to sleep on the living room couch. He didn't want to leave them alone on the first day. He found Emily standing in the hallway. "Mr. Morrison, you can call me Jack." She hesitated. "Jack, thank you for all this." "No need to thank me, Emily. You both deserve all the care in the world." She bit her lip, clearly wanting to say more. Our father, he always finds us." "Not this time," Jack promised firmly. "You're safe here. You have my word." Emily gave a slight nod before returning to the room where Olivia waited. Jack kept his eyes on the closed door, his resolve stronger than ever. Tomorrow he'd need to go back to work, but he already had a plan. Connected security cameras streaming directly to his phone, extra guards, a private driver to take them to appointments. Robert Miller might be a threat, but Jack Morrison had virtually unlimited resources and a clear mission: to protect those girls at any cost. Lying on the couch, he occasionally heard whispers coming from the twins' room, their private way of communicating, a bond forged through years of surviving together. In just one day, they had already changed his life completely. Jack had always had everything money could buy, but for the first time, he felt he was doing something truly meaningful. Emily and Olivia had survived hell. Now it was time for them to learn how to live, not just survive, and he would be there to guide them every step of the way. The day had been long, full of doctors, evaluations, and preparations. But looking at the closed door to the twins' room, Jack knew this was only the beginning of a much bigger journey. A journey of healing, trust, and maybe one day happiness. Morning came early in the penthouse. Jack straightened his tie while watching the twins have breakfast with the housekeeper, Mrs. Martinez, a trusted woman who had worked for his family for decades. "Remember," he said for the third time, "you can call me anytime. My phone's always on." Emily nodded between spoonfuls of cereal. "We'll be fine, Jack. Mrs. Martinez seems nice." Olivia just watched, her large eyes following every movement. "The guards are on alert. The cameras are working," Jack continued. "And Dr. Santos is coming by this afternoon for a session." "Senor Morrison," Mrs. Martinez interjected gently, "you'll be late for your meeting." With one last worried glance at the girls, Jack stepped into the elevator. It was strange how, in just 2 days, these children had become so important in his life. Morrison Enterprises occupied an entire skyscraper in downtown Manhattan. Jack had barely sat in his chair when his assistant, Jennifer, walked in with the day's correspondence. "Your meetings start in 15 minutes, Mr. Morrison, and..." She hesitated. "There's this letter. It didn't go through the usual security scan." Jack took the crumpled envelope. No return address, his name written in shaky handwriting. Something inside him went cold as he recognized the handwriting from Robert Miller's police file. Carefully, he opened the envelope with a pen. A folded piece of paper fell onto his desk. "You're not going to separate me from my girls. They are my property. No matter where you hide them, I will find them." The writing was uneven, smudged in places, probably tears or booze. But the threat was crystal clear. "Jennifer," Jack called, and controlling his voice, "cancel my morning meetings. and get the head of security, now. Within minutes, his office was filled with professionals. The letter was carefully preserved for forensic analysis. Head of security, retired Colonel James Carter, studied the building's cameras on his tablet. The envelope was left at reception during a shift change, Carter reported. We have footage of the delivery boy, teenager, probably unrelated, but we're tracing him. How did he get my business address so fast? Jack muttered, mostly to himself. Internet, Jennifer replied, searching her laptop. Morrison Enterprises is a public company. Anyone can find the headquarters. Jack ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. Double security at the penthouse. I want more guards, more cameras, and run a full background check on anyone who comes near the building. Already happening, Carter nodded. But Mr. Morrison, this is personal. Miller is obsessed. Men like that are unpredictable. Are you suggesting I give up the girls? Jack asked, his voice dangerously low. Of course not, sir. I'm suggesting we think several steps ahead. Miller is a predator. He'll study, plan, wait for the right moment. Jack grabbed his phone, checking the penthouse cameras for the 10th time that morning. Emily and Olivia were in the living room with Mrs. Martinez, apparently doing homework. I want hourly updates, he ordered. Any suspicious move, no matter how small, report it immediately. When everyone left, Jack reread the letter. The threat was clear, but there was something more: desperation. Robert Miller was a man losing control, which made him even more dangerous. His phone buzzed, a message from Mrs. Martinez with a photo of the twins, shyly smiling with their new schoolbooks. Something tightened in Jack's chest. In just 2 days, these girls had become his responsibility, his family. The morning blurred by in a rush of phone calls and security measures. Jack barely touched the lunch Jennifer brought, his thoughts constantly returning to the penthouse. Mr. Morrison, Jennifer interrupted his thoughts. The police are on the line. It seems Robert Miller posted bail. Jack froze. How? Apparently someone paid it for him. We haven't traced who yet, but... He's free, Jack cut her off, already grabbing his coat. Yes, sir. About an hour ago. Jack was in the elevator, calling the penthouse. Mrs. Martinez answered on the first ring. The girls. They are fine, senor. Doing homework in the living room. Lock all the doors. Don't let anyone in until I get there, no one. The drive home had never felt so long. Jack alternated between checking the security cameras and making calls to his lawyer, the police, and contacts who could help track Miller. When he finally reached the penthouse, he found Emily and Olivia curled up on the couch, watching TV. Their faces lit up when they saw him. You're home early, Emily smiled. Jack forced a smile, not wanting to alarm them. I missed my girls. Olivia studied him with perceptive eyes. Somehow she always seemed to know when something was wrong. Mrs. Martinez followed him into the kitchen. Senor, did something happen? Robert Miller is out, Jack said quietly, and he left a threat at my office. The housekeeper crossed herself. Dios mío, what are we going to do? Protect them, Jack replied simply, at any cost. He spent the rest of the afternoon feigning normalcy, but his eyes kept checking the cameras, the windows, the doors. Every sound set him on edge. That night, after the girls went to bed, Jack held a video conference with his security team. We need a contingency plan, Carter argued. Safe rooms, escape routes, alternative identities if needed. Make it happen, Jack ordered. Cost is no issue. When he finally allowed himself to lie down, his mind was racing. Miller's letter burned in his thoughts. They are my property. No, they were not. Emily and Olivia were bright, courageous children who deserved a chance at a normal life. And Jack was determined to give them that. Soft footsteps alerted him. Emily stood in his bedroom door, looking small and vulnerable in her new pajamas. Jack, are you awake? Yes, sweetie. Is something wrong? She hesitated. Olivia had a nightmare. She thinks she saw our father today through the window. Jack sat up immediately. When? This afternoon. But it was just her imagination, right? He can't find us here, can he? Jack opened his arms and Emily ran to him, trembling slightly. "Listen," he said gently. "I won't let anything happen to you. Ever. You have my word. Promise." "I promise." Emily sniffled against his shoulder. Can we sleep here tonight?" "With Olivia." "Of course you can." Minutes later, the twins were curled up in his king-size bed, finally relaxing into sleep. Jack kept watch in a nearby armchair, laptop open to monitor the security cameras. Miller's letter was more than a threat. It was a declaration of war. But if he wanted war, Jack was more than prepared to fight back. Because now it wasn't just about protecting two defenseless children, it was about defending his family. And Jack Morrison protected what was his. The night dragged on slowly, the city outside never truly sleeping. On the bed, Emily unconsciously reached for her sister's hand in her sleep. Even in nightmares, they protected each other. Jack watched the small sleeping figures and felt his resolve harden. Robert Miller might have written that letter thinking he could intimidate them, but he'd only accomplished one thing: turning Jack Morrison from a reluctant protector into a determined father. The war was only just beginning, and Jack had no intention of losing Dr. Maria Santos watched the twins settle on the sofa in her private office, temporarily set up in one of the penthouse rooms. Emily, as usual, positioned herself slightly in front of her sister, protective. "Today," the psychologist began softly, "I'd like you to tell me a bit about before. Only what you're comfortable sharing." Emily glanced at Olivia, who gave a barely perceptible nod. "It started when Mom left," Emily whispered. "Dad said she abandoned us, but—" She hesitated. "But," Dr. Santos encouraged, "but I remember her crying. She had bruises on her face, and she hugged us so tight before she left." Olivia shrank back, burying her face in her sister's shoulder. "How old were you?" "We were 8, Emily answered. "That's when everything got worse. Dad started drinking more. He said we were just like her, ungrateful traitors." Dr. Santos took a few notes. "And what was life at home like?" Emily took a deep breath. "We never knew what mood he'd be in. Sometimes, and with the first drinks, he'd be cheerful. He'd tell stories, promise gifts. But then," her hands began to tremble. Olivia held them firmly. "He got violent," Emily continued, her voice barely a whisper. "He'd break things. He'd yell. Said we were his property, that nobody else would love us. And what did you do?" "I learned to spot the signs. When he started getting aggressive, I hid Olivia in the basement. There was a little nook there behind old boxes. I'd bring blankets, water." Dr. Santos noticed how Olivia pressed herself closer to her sister at the mention of the basement. "You were protecting your sister," Emily nodded. She stopped talking after he—" Her voice failed. Olivia rolled up her sleeve, revealing a thin scar on her forearm. Dr. Santos kept her professional composure, but her heart ached. "That was when he broke the bottle," Emily explained, tears streaming. "Olivia had dropped a glass. I wasn't fast enough." "You were just a child, Emily. You weren't expected to be fast." "But I promised to protect her. After Mom left, I promised nothing would ever hurt my sister." The psychologist watched as Olivia wiped away her sister's tears, briefly reversing their roles. "How did you escape?" "School sometimes when he let us go, or to Mrs. Wilson's house, our neighbor. She noticed the bruises, tried to help, but Dad found out and banned us from talking to her." "And the police?" Emily let out a bitter laugh. "He was friends with the local cops. They always said it was just family issues." Dr. Santos wrote more notes. The pattern was clear: systematic isolation, abuse of power, manipulation of authorities. "That last night," Emily continued after a moment, "he was worse than usual. He'd lost his job again, started smashing everything, saying he was going to teach us a final lesson." Olivia began trembling violently. Emily held her close. "We managed to escape through the back window. We ran with no direction. That's when we found Mr. Morrison. Jack." "Doctor." Santos saw how the twins' shoulders relaxed slightly at the mention of Jack. "How do you feel here with Jack?" "Safe," Emily answered immediately. "He never yells, never demands anything, and," she gave a slight smile, "he lets us eat as much as we want." It was the first time the psychologist had seen a genuine smile from Emily. "Olivia?" Dr. Santos asked gently. "Would you like to tell me how you feel?" The girl hesitated, then picked up a paper pad and wrote in shaky handwriting, "I'm scared it's a dream." "Why do you think it's a dream?" More writing. "Good things don't happen to people like us." "What kind of people are you?" "Broken," Emily answered for both. "Dad always said we were defective goods. That's why Mom left." Dr. Santos felt a wave of professional anger. The psychological damage was extensive, but there was hope. The girls had each other, and now they had Jack. "You are survivors," she stated firmly. "You went through things no child should ever face, but you survived. That's not being broken, that's being extraordinarily strong." Emily blinked, surprised. Olivia lifted her eyes for the first time in the session. "And Jack?" "He's..." Emily searched for words. "Different. Good. Like we imagined dads should be." Olivia wrote, "He makes Emily smile." The session went on, revealing more layers of trauma, nights without food, days locked inside the house, constant threats. Yet it also showed the remarkable strength of the bond between the sisters. When Jack returned from work that afternoon, he found the twins exhausted yet lighter, as if they had shed some weight. It was hard, Dr. Santos told him privately, but necessary. They needed to start processing the trauma. And now we continue, day by day. Their biggest fear is that this is temporary, that you'll get tired, that you'll send them back. Jack felt his heart constrict. Never. Then show them. Consistency, patience, unconditional love. That's what they need most now. That evening, Jack found the twins dozing off in the TV room. He had put on a kids' movie, but they hardly watched it before falling asleep, hugging each other as always. Watching those two brave girls, Jack made a silent promise. They would never again have to be strong alone. Now they had him. Forever. Jack Morrison's office was buzzing with activity that morning. Private detectives, forensic experts, and lawyers filled the conference room, analyzing every aspect of Robert Miller's threat. "The analysis of the letter revealed something interesting," said Dr. Chen, a forensic specialist. "Traces of cheap alcohol, but also another chemical, probably prescription meds." Jack frowned. "What kind of meds?" "Antipsychotics. And by the concentration, he's not taking them regularly." Detective Marcus Rivera, a former cop with decades of experience, spread photographs across the table. Robert Miller follows a pattern: alcoholism, domestic violence, obsessive behavior. "Did you get his record?" 3 assault charges, 2 DUIs. But the worst is the archived complaints, all involving violence against women. Jack studied the police reports. Each page revealed more of the monster who had terrorized Emily and Olivia. How did he keep custody of the girls? "Connections," Rivera replied bitterly. "Miller worked as security in several bars frequented by cops. He built an informal network of protection." Attorney Catherine Wong jumped in. "We're filing for an emergency custody order. With the abuse evidence and the threatening letter, we have a strong case." "How long will it take?" "For temporary custody, a few days. Permanent might take months." "But Miller won't have legal access to the girls during the process." Jack nodded, once again checking the penthouse cameras on his phone. The twins were safe, doing schoolwork with the private tutor. "And the letter?" he asked. "Were you able to trace the delivery boy?" Rivera projected images from security cameras. "Local teenager, earning money on the side making deliveries. He said a man approached him in a bar, offered him $50 to drop off the envelope." "Miller?" "No, the description doesn't match. Probably an intermediary." Jack's concern grew. Miller was being more calculating than they thought. "We need more," he said. "I want to know everything. Where he lives, where he drinks, who his contacts are, especially who paid his bail." "We're on it," Rivera assured. "We've set up discreet surveillance of his known spots, but he's being careful, changing his routine." The meeting continued, each specialist contributing their expertise. Psychological profiles were reviewed, behavioral patterns studied, security measures reinforced. Mr. Morrison, Carter, the head of security, caught his attention. "We found something on the building's cameras." The footage showed a man watching the penthouse building from a cafe across the street. It wasn't Miller, but something in his posture raised alarm. "Scouting," Carter explained. "He's studying our routines, looking for weaknesses. Have we identified him? Ex-military, works as a private security guard, has connections to Miller from when they served together." Jack felt a chill. Miller wasn't acting alone. He had a support network, people with training. "Double security," he ordered. "I want teams on duty 24/7, constant monitoring, and," he hesitated, "prepare the safe house." Carter nodded, understanding. If Miller tried anything, they'd need an escape route and a secret location where the girls would be safe. Attorney Wong came back with more documents. "I managed to get a preliminary restraining order. Miller can't come within 500 meters of the girls or you." "As if a piece of paper would stop him," Jack muttered. "No, but it gives us legal grounds for immediate action if he tries something." The morning passed in a flurry of information and planning. Jack absorbed every detail, determined not to leave any gap in the girls' protection. His phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Santos. "Olivia had a panic attack today. She thought she saw her father through the window." Jack immediately checked the cameras for the mentioned time. Nothing. But the girl's fear was real and justified. "Rivera," he called the detective, "I want to know more about their mother. Sarah Miller, born Thompson, disappeared 4 years ago. No records since. Find her. She might be crucial for the custody process." Rivera took notes. "It'll be tough. If she's hiding from Miller, she probably changed her identity. Use every resource necessary. Money is no object." That afternoon brought more disturbing revelations. The antipsychotics found on the letter were part of an old prescription. Miller had a history of untreated mental issues. "Personality disorder with obsessive traits," the forensic psychiatrist explained. "Combined with alcoholism and a history of violence, we have a ticking time bomb." Jack gazed out over the city from his office window, thinking about the 2 girls who depended on him. Each new piece of information about Miller only confirmed what a monster and how dangerous he truly was. "Mr. Morrison," Jennifer interrupted his thoughts. "The girls are on the line," Jack answered immediately. "Is everything okay?" "Yes," Emily sounded cheerful. "We just wanted to know if you'll take long. Olivia drew a picture for you." Something warmed in Jack's chest. Amid all the chaos and danger, the girls still found room for joy. "I'm leaving now," he promised. "Keep that drawing for me." He hung up, determined. Miller may have resources, connections, even accomplices. But Jack had something more important: 2 girls to protect, a family to defend. The investigation continued. Every lead was pursued, every threat neutralized. Meanwhile, he made sure Emily and Olivia could just be kids, drawing, studying, smiling. Because in the end, that's what really mattered. Giving them the childhood they deserved, the safety they needed, and the love they had been denied for so long. Jack's investigative team occupied an entire room, walls covered with photos and documents connected by red strings. In the center, an old photo, Sarah Thompson Miller, smiling with the 4-year-old twins in her arms. "Last official record," Rivera pointed. "Bank account closed in 2019. After that, nothing." "Nothing is impossible these days," Jack replied. "Everyone leaves a digital trail. We've already checked employment records, rentals, credit cards." She was meticulous in disappearing. Jack studied the photo. The smile didn't reach Sarah's eyes. There was already fear there. Who helped her? Nobody vanishes completely alone. Rivera projected more images. Former neighbor, Margaret Wilson, mentioned in the girl's testimony. She died 2 years ago, but she withdrew a significant sum before passing. Anne made several calls to Portland. Jack leaned in, interested. Oregon? Maine? Small town? Tight-knit community? Perfect for a fresh start. The investigation expanded. Records were scoured. Contacts approached. Sarah Thompson had vanished, but someone using her fingerprints had been hired at a municipal library 3 years earlier. Janet White, Rivera read the new name, librarian, lives alone, volunteers at a women's shelter on weekends. Surveillance photos showed a different woman, short, graying hair, large glasses, discreet clothing, but the eyes, the same eyes as the twins. It's her, Jack confirmed. How do we reach out? Carefully. She ran for a reason. If we scare her... Jack thought of the girls. I need to go in person. She needs to know her daughters are safe. The plan was meticulously crafted. Jack flew to Portland in his private jet, staying discreetly at a remote hotel. The library was monitored, routines observed. Sarah, now Janet, followed a strict pattern. Work, home, church on Sundays. A small, controlled, invisible life. Miss White? She froze at the sound of Jack's voice, her eyes immediately searching for exits. The library was almost empty that rainy afternoon. Don't be afraid, Jack said softly. I came because of Emily and Olivia. The color drained from her face. They're safe. They're with me now. Robert can't hurt them anymore. Sarah staggered, leaning against a shelf. Tears began streaming down her face. They're alive, she whispered. Thank God they're alive. Jack gently guided her to a private reading room. Sarah trembled, years of fear and guilt pouring out. I didn't want to leave them, she started, words tumbling over each other. But he said he'd kill them if I didn't vanish. Showed me the gun, said he'd make it look like an accident. I know, Jack replied softly. The girls told us about the abuse. Sarah covered her face. I tried to take them. 3 times I tried to run away with them, but he always found us. He had friends in the police, in the court. And now he has nothing. He's under investigation. The girls are under my legal protection. She studied him with Olivia's identical eyes. Who are you? Jack explained everything. The alleyway rescue, the months of healing and protection. Sarah drank in every word, starving for news of her daughters. Olivia stopped talking, she whispered at one point. My brave little girl. She's starting to open up now, and Emily, she's been protecting her sister this whole time. More tears. They were so little. They shouldn't have gone through this. They shouldn't, Jack agreed. But now they have a chance to start over. And they need their mother. Sarah stiffened. I can't. He won't do anything. I have resources, Sarah. Security, lawyers, real police protection. You can go back to your daughters. They must hate me. They miss you. Emily still keeps that last photo of you 3 at the park. Sarah sobbed. Years of guilt, fear, and longing surfacing. Can I see them? That's why I'm here. But we need to do this right. Prepare the girls, ensure your safety. The next few days were full of intense planning. Sarah's identity was legally restored, protection set up. Jack gently prepared the twins for the news. Your mother didn't abandon you, he explained. She ran away to protect you, and now she really wants to see you again, Emily cried. Olivia wrote pages of questions. Both swung between hope and fear. The reunion happened at the penthouse, with Dr. Santos present for support. Sarah, her hair now returned to its natural brown, shook as she stepped off the elevator. Mom? Emily's voice, small and uncertain, shattered the tension. In seconds, they were in each other's arms, Olivia joining the desperate hug. My babies, Sarah sobbed. My precious girls, forgive me, forgive me. Jack and Dr. Santos discreetly withdrew, giving them privacy. Through the security camera, he watched the family reunite, 3 broken hearts beginning to heal together. Sarah told them everything, the constant fear, the failed escape attempts. The impossible choice of leaving to keep them alive. Emily and Olivia listened, cried, asked questions. "I'll never leave you again," Sarah promised. "We'll never be apart." Jack, watching from a distance, felt something tighten in his chest. In just a few months, these girls had become his family. Now their mother was back. Would this be the end of his role in their lives? But then Emily called him. "Jack, come here." He entered the room hesitantly. Emily ran up to hug him. "Thank you," she whispered, "for bringing our mom back." Olivia joined the hug. Sarah watched, her eyes brimming with tears. "Thank you," she said simply, "for taking care of them when I couldn't." Jack understood then. He wasn't losing his family. He was helping rebuild one, bigger and stronger. The war against Robert Miller wasn't over yet, but now they had an extra reason to fight, another heart to protect. And Jack Morrison would protect them all, his girls, his family, his home. Detective Rivera laid out a fresh set of photographs on Jack's desk. Security camera images showed Robert Miller in various city locations, always in the shadows, always watching. "He's getting bolder," Rivera pointed out. 3 sightings near Morrison Enterprises in the last week. Jack studied the photos intently. Miller looked thinner, more unstable, with sunken eyes and an unkempt beard. But there was something calculating in his gaze that worried Jack. "The full criminal records have arrived," Carter, the head of security, announced. "It's worse than we thought." The file was extensive. Aside from the known assaults, there were archived complaints in 3 different states. The same pattern: domestic violence, stalking, threats, always using connections to slip through the system. "How did he hold on to custody?" Jack muttered again. "He had a pattern," Carter explained grimly. "First isolation, then total control. When he loses that control, he eliminates what he can't control," Jack completed. "The girls aren't just his daughters, they're his property. Now Sarah is back." "Exactly. We have to move fast." The investigation intensified. Surveillance teams monitored every suspicious move. Informants in local bars reported Miller's conversations, growing more paranoid, more violent. "We found one of his hideouts," Rivera reported, "an apartment rented under a false name in the Bronx." The photos of the place were disturbing. Walls covered in newspaper clippings about Morrison Enterprises. Recent surveillance photos of the twins, some far too recent for Jack's comfort. How did he get these images? "He has help," Carter confirmed. "Professionals, ex-military like him, mercenaries." A map of the city dominated a wall, red markings indicating the Penthouse E, the company, the school the girls would attend. Miller was planning something big. "We need more," Jack insisted. "I want to know his every move, every contact, every breath." The investigation branched out. Phone records showed calls to suspicious numbers. Bank transactions revealed payments to shell companies. "He's assembling an operation," Carter warned. "It's no longer just an obsessive father, it's an organized threat." Jack ramped up security again. More guards, more cameras, stricter protocols. The twins and Sarah were never alone. "We found his arsenal," Rivera reported one tense afternoon. "Guns, explosives, tactical gear, enough for a small war." "And Miller?" "Gone." He cleared out the apartment, but he left this for you. Another letter, the shaky handwriting angrier now. "You may have money, Morrison. You may have guards, cameras, your entire empire. But I have time. And when you let your guard down, when you think they're safe, I'll take back what's mine." Jack crumpled the letter. "He wants to scare us. Make us slip up." "It's working," Carter observed. "Your team is on edge. The girls can sense it. Sarah barely sleeps." It was true. Fear had crept into the penthouse like a toxic fog. Emily was more protective than ever. Olivia was having nightmares again, and Sarah jumped at every unexpected sound. "We have to end this," Jack decided. "We can't keep waiting for him to strike. We have one chance," Rivera said. "Miller follows a pattern. He always returns to the same places on significant dates." Which dates? His wedding anniversary with Sarah is coming up. He always drinks at the same bar every year. Jack felt the weight of the decision. It was risky, but it was an opportunity. Set everything up, he ordered. I want a flawless operation, no chance of error. Preparations began. Tactical teams were positioned, escape routes mapped, every detail meticulously planned. Sarah provided more information, places Miller frequented, contacts he kept, habits she remembered, every piece of the puzzle falling into place. He won't make it easy, she warned. Robert was always meticulous in his obsessions. That's why we have to be even more meticulous, Jack replied. The tension increased every day. Miller remained invisible, but his presence was felt in every shadow, every suspicious noise. The twins noticed the change in the atmosphere. He's going to try to take us, right? Emily asked one night. I won't let him, Jack promised. He'll never hurt you again. Olivia wrote on her notepad. But what if he hurts you? The concern in the girl's eyes broke his heart. They had already lost so much, suffered so deeply. Nothing will happen to me, Jack assured, and soon this threat will be over. Trust me. The operation was set. Every agent in position, every camera monitored, every exit covered. The trap was ready. Now they just had to wait for Miller to walk into it. He will come, Sarah stated confidently. His pride won't allow him to lose control. Jack watched his makeshift family, Sarah reading to the twins, trying to keep some sense of normalcy amid the chaos. He had so much to protect, so much to lose now. But that was exactly why he needed to end this threat, so Emily could smile without fear, so Olivia could find her voice again, so Sarah could finally sleep peacefully. The hunt was reaching its climax, and this time, Robert Miller would not escape justice, because he was no longer facing just a frightened woman or defenseless children. He was up against Jack Morrison, and Jack protected his family at any cost. The interrogation room was silent, except for the low hum of the video camera. Sarah Miller sat up straight, hands clasped on the table, while attorney Catherine Wong prepared the documents. We can start whenever you're ready, Mrs. Miller, Catherine said kindly. Remember, this testimony is crucial for the custody case. Sarah took a deep breath, finding strength in Jack's encouraging gaze from the corner of the room. I met Robert in 2008, she began. I was a newly graduated nurse. He had just left the army. At first, he was charming, protective. He said he'd found his purpose in me. Her voice trembled slightly. The first sign was during our engagement. He had a violent outburst when a friend hugged me. He broke the man's nose, said he was protecting me from other men. Catherine took meticulous notes while the camera captured every word. I should have seen it then. But he cried, begged for forgiveness, swore it was just post-traumatic stress. I believed him. I wanted to believe. Sarah paused, drinking some water. The wedding was quick, isolated. He had already started cutting me off from friends and family, said it was just us against the world. When did the violence begin? 3 months later. Small things at first, shoves, tight grips on my arm, yelling over any little thing, always followed by remorse, gifts, promises. Tears began to fall. When I got pregnant with the twins, I thought it would get better. For a while, it did. Robert was ecstatic, already planning the future for his girls. Sarah shuddered at the memory. The delivery was difficult. I was hospitalized for a week. When I returned, he'd been drinking every night, furious he had to care for the babies alone. That was the first time he actually beat me. Closed fists, kicks. He said I preferred staying at the hospital than taking care of the family. Catherine offered a tissue gently. Jack stood with fists clenched, controlling his anger. The twins were 3 months old when I tried to run for the first time. I packed a bag while he was at work, took some hidden money, but he had friends everywhere. A cop alerted him. He caught me at the bus station. Sarah touched a scar on her neck unconsciously. That night, I thought I'd die. He swung between rage and begging, choking me, then kissing the bruises, swearing it was all my fault for trying to destroy our family. How did you survive all those years? I learned to be invisible, to predict his moods, anticipate his needs. The twins learned too, Emily especially. So young, yet she knew when he was dangerous. Tears flowed freely now. I should have protected them better, but every attempt to escape failed. Every plea for help was ignored. Robert had connections everywhere. So why did you leave alone? Sarah closed her eyes, reliving that night. Emily was 6. Robert was furious because she spilled juice on the carpet. He started hitting her. Olivia tried to protect her sister and her voice faltered. Jack stepped closer, offering silent support. He threw Olivia against the wall. She passed out. While I was tending to her, he went to get his gun. He said, since I couldn't teach them properly, he'd show them how it's done. Sarah trembled. I begged, offered anything. He said I had a choice, disappear forever, or watch the girls have an accident. Showed me news articles about other families, other women who defied him. And you believed his threat? Karen Martinez, Sarah whispered. His ex-fiancée. Robert told me about her accident and as a warning. Later I found out she wasn't the only one. Catherine presented photos of other victims. Sarah recognized patterns, connections, similar threats. How did you vanish? Margaret Wilson, our neighbor. She was part of a support network for battered women. She helped me with fake documents, connections in other cities, but the price... Sarah sobbed. The price was leaving my girls. Did you stay in touch with Mrs. Wilson? Coded calls once a month. She'd give me basic news, that the girls were alive, going to school. When she died, I lost my only link to them. Sarah stared straight into the camera. Every day away from them was torture. Every missed birthday, every Christmas alone, but the alternative was watching them die. Robert never joked about his threats. And now, why come back? Because for the first time, there's real hope. Sarah looked at Jack. Someone with the resources to fight Robert, the power to protect them for real. I couldn't stay hidden knowing my daughters finally have a chance at a normal life. The testimony continued for hours. Sarah revealed every incident of violence, every threat, every failed escape attempt. A clear pattern of systematic abuse and psychological terror emerged. One last question, Catherine said softly. What do you want for your daughters now? Sarah straightened her shoulders. I want them to be free, never again to feel afraid of their own father, to live like normal kids, with a family that loves them and never hurts them. When the camera finally shut off, Sarah collapsed. Jack supported her as she cried out years of guilt and suppressed pain. Did I do the right thing? She asked between sobs. Leaving them to protect them? You did what you had to with the options you had, Jack answered gently. You're here now. That's what matters. Catherine gathered the documents. This testimony is crucial, Sarah. Along with the physical evidence and prior statements, we have a solid case. What about Robert? He won't hurt anyone anymore, Jack promised. You survived, protected your girls the best you could. Now it's our turn to protect you. Sarah nodded, exhausted but determined. Years of secrets and fear had been brought into the light. The next step would be justice. For her, for the twins, and for all of Robert Miller's other victims. The morning dawned gray over Manhattan, the heavy sky mirroring the tension of the day ahead. In Jack's apartment, Sarah nervously adjusted the ribbon in Emily's hair, her hands trembling slightly. The twins had slept poorly, haunted by nightmares of what they would face today. Remember, Sarah whispered as she helped the girls get ready, you're stronger than he is. His words can't hurt you anymore. In the penthouse's spacious living room, Jack went over security details with Carter for the 10th time. Every entrance to the courthouse was mapped, every guard placed strategically, nothing left to chance. Security will be tight, Carter assured. Miller won't stand a chance of getting close. The federal courthouse in Manhattan was imposing with its marble columns and tinted glass. Police cars surrounded the perimeter, extra precautions after Robert's threats. Jack watched his family as they climbed the steps. Sarah trying to appear strong, Emily protective as always, Olivia almost hiding behind them. In the conference room, Catherine Wong led her team with military precision. Carefully organized documents covered the mahogany table, every piece of evidence, every record, every proof of the psychological terror Robert Miller had unleashed on his family. "The case is solid," Catherine explained, adjusting her thin-framed glasses. "We have documented evidence, credible witnesses, and now his diary. Judge Parker is known for her firm stance on psychological abuse cases." In one corner of the room, Dr. Santos quietly worked with the twins, guiding them through breathing and grounding techniques. "Remember," she said kindly, "you have control now. If you feel uncomfortable, use our signal." Emily practiced her breathing calmly, while Olivia clutched a small crystal in her hand, her safety anchor. The psychologist watched with pride how far they had come, though the trauma was still evident. Carter's radio crackled, breaking everyone's concentration. "Miller's here. He's with the defense lawyer and there's a group of supporters with him." Sarah visibly paled. Jack instinctively moved to block her view of the windows. Through the glass, they could see a small group holding signs about father's rights and traditional family. "Ignore them," Catherine instructed firmly. "They're just here to provoke a reaction. Stay focused." The courtroom was packed when they entered. Journalists, law enforcement, curious onlookers. A murmur swept through the crowd as the family walked by. Robert Miller was already seated on the defense side, seemingly calm in his cheap suit, but his eyes, there was a predatory gleam that made Jack position himself protectively. "All rise," the bailiff announced. "This court is now in session, the Honorable Judge Eleanor Parker presiding." The judge was a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes that seemed to see through any pretense. She surveyed the room for a long moment before speaking. "Case number 2347B, custody of minors Emily and Olivia Miller, with associated criminal charges. Given the sensitive nature of this case and the presence of minors, any disruption will result in immediate removal. Mrs. Wong, you may begin." Catherine rose gracefully. "Your Honor, we present a case of systematic psychological abuse and emotional terrorism spanning over a decade. Robert Miller not only terrorized his wife and daughters, but cultivated an environment of constant fear and total control. The following hours were a methodical exposition of the nightmare that had been life under Robert Miller's rule. Recordings of his rage outbursts were played, his thunderous voice ranting about disappointments and property, making the twins shrink in their seats. Detailed diaries documented his obsessive rules, specific schedules for every activity, elaborate punishments for minor infractions, endless lists of the girls' failures. "The children lived in constant terror," testified Gloria Martinez, a former teacher of the twins. Any grade below an A meant severe psychological punishments, isolation, public humiliation, endless lectures on how they were disappointments. Defense attorney Thomas Reed attempted to minimize during cross-examination. "Isn't it normal for parents to demand academic excellence, establish rules and consequences?" "Normal is encouraging," the teacher responded firmly. "Not threatening 7-year-olds with abandonment if they get a B in math, not forcing them to write essays about their own worthlessness when they fail to meet impossible expectations." Sarah was the next witness. Jack could see her fear as she approached the stand. But there was also new strength in her bearing, the strength of someone who could finally tell her truth. "Mrs. Miller," Catherine began gently, "could you describe the routine in your home?" Sarah drew a shaky breath, her hands twisting the fabric of her skirt. Robert had rules for everything. What time we woke up, how we made the beds, even which words we could use. The girls had scripted lines for when he came home, how to smile, what to say, even how to stand. And if these rules were broken, he exploded, could spend hours yelling, listing every flaw, every disappointment. He made the girls stand at attention while he described in detail how worthless they were, how no one else would ever love them. Reed went on the attack during cross. "And why didn't you seek help? Why leave your daughters with someone you claim is so terrible?" "Objection," Catherine interjected. "Argumentative." "I'll rephrase," Reed said with a cold smile. "What were your reasons for leaving 2 children with a man you describe as abusive?" Sarah looked directly at Robert for the first time, because he promised to destroy them if I didn't leave. Showed me what he did to Karen Martinez, how he broke her psychologically before the accident. Said he'd do the same to my girls, slowly, so I'd know it was my fault. The tension in the room was palpable. Robert maintained a slight smile, almost amused, as if the whole thing was a big joke. Emily testified next. She looked small in the imposing chair, but there was a surprising dignity for someone so young. "What was life like with your father?" Catherine asked gently. "It was like walking through a minefield," Emily replied, her voice trembling. "We never knew what would trigger an explosion. A glass out of place, a laugh too loud, homework less than perfect. And what happened during those explosions? He yelled, for hours, called us useless, stupid, said we were just like our mother, failures who only knew how to disappoint. He made us repeat that we were his property, that we'd never be anything without him." Olivia's drawings were then presented, disturbing images of small figures surrounded by threatening shadows, cruel words in dark clouds that seemed to suffocate them. Olivia's selective mutism, Dr. Santos explained to the court, is a response to severe psychological trauma. When words have been used as weapons for so long, silence becomes a necessary defense. The most impactful piece of evidence came next, Robert's secret diary, found in his hideout. Pages and pages of obsessive control plans, lists of psychological punishments, detailed strategies to break the girl's resistance. He meticulously planned every aspect of the psychological terror, Catherine explained, projecting images of the diary, every cruel word, every manipulation, every technique to keep his victims in total submission. That's when something in Robert's expression changed. The light smile disappeared, replaced by something darker. "Lies!" he suddenly roared, standing up. "They're all lies. They are mine." The guards moved instantly, but Miller was out of control. "Look at me," he shouted at the twins. "Look at your father. You are nothing without me. Nothing." That was when something extraordinary happened. In the midst of the chaos, a small but clear voice cut through the commotion. "We're not yours," Olivia said, speaking in public for the first time in years. "Never again." The silence that followed was deafening. Robert froze, his eyes fixed on the daughter who had remained silent for so long. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Shock, anger, and then fear. "You," he began, his voice strangely altered. "I sound exactly like... No, that can't be..." The guards finally reached him, but Miller seemed to be somewhere else, muttering something about his own childhood, about voices from the past. "Court is adjourned," the judge declared. "We'll reconvene tomorrow at 9 a.m. Take the defendant for immediate psychological evaluation." While Robert was led away, still murmuring incoherently, Jack sensed there was something deeper emerging. This was no longer just about control and abuse. There were older wounds, deeper traumas at play. The family was escorted to a secure room, where Emily clung to Olivia with all her might. "You spoke," she whispered to her sister. "You really spoke." Olivia trembled, but there was a new light in her eyes, the light of someone who had reclaimed her voice, literally and metaphorically. "What happened to him?" Sarah asked Catherine quietly. That reaction when Olivia spoke, "I'm not sure," the attorney replied, thoughtful. But something about her voice triggered something in him. The psychological evaluation might reveal more. Jack observed his family, feeling that they were on the verge of important discoveries. The trial was no longer just about custody and justice. It was unearthing truths buried long ago. While they waited to be escorted home, the tension in the air was palpable. Tomorrow would bring more revelations, more confrontations, maybe even some answers. But for today, a small victory had been won. Olivia had found her voice, and in some way, her simple words had cracked Robert Miller's facade, offering a glimpse of the broken man behind the monster. The real showdown, Jack now realized, was only beginning. The psychiatric ward of the federal prison was unlike the rest of the facility. Walls in softer tones replaced institutional gray, and while the windows were still barred, they let in more natural light. This was where Robert Miller had begun his hardest journey, confronting the man he had become. Dr. Marcus Bennett, a specialist in generational trauma, watched Robert through the table during their daily session. 3 months of intensive treatment had visibly changed Robert. The man who once intimidated others now seemed smaller, more vulnerable, layers of aggression peeling away to reveal decades of pain. "How are you feeling today, Doctor?" Bennett asked, noticing the deep circles under Robert's eyes. "The nightmares. They're worse," Robert admitted in a hoarse voice. "Now it's not just my father's memories. I see my daughters, the terror in their eyes, exactly how I looked at him." The psychiatrist made some notes. Robert's ability to make these connections was a significant breakthrough. In the first weeks, he'd still tried to justify his actions, hiding behind excuses of discipline and fatherly love. "Do you want to talk about the specific nightmare that upset you?" Robert took a deep breath, his hands shaking slightly. "It was Olivia, in the courtroom, but in the dream it was also my mother somehow, their voices overlapping. 'We're not yours.' That's what my mother should have told him. What I should have told him." The treatment combined intensive therapy with appropriate medication, antidepressants and mood stabilizers that helped Robert maintain enough mental clarity to do the emotional work. "I've started writing letters," Robert said after a moment of silence, "like you suggested. For them, for my mother, even for him." Dr. Bennett nodded encouragingly. The letters were an important therapeutic tool. Even if they were never sent, they allowed Robert to process his feelings constructively. "Dear Olivia," Robert read from a crumpled sheet, his voice trembling. "I'm sorry for stealing your voice, for turning words into weapons, like he did to me. You were braver than I was. You found the courage to say no, something I never managed to do." Tears started falling, smudging the ink. "Emily, my little protector, I'm sorry for forcing that role on you, for making you carry a burden that even I, an adult, couldn't bear. You deserve to be just a kid." Robert's journey was complex. Decades of trauma wouldn't vanish easily, and deeply ingrained behavior patterns required constant vigilance to change. "How do you feel about Sarah?" Dr. Bennett asked gently. "Ashamed," Robert answered after a long pause. I did exactly what my father did, controlled every aspect of her life, punished any sign of independence, and when she tried to protect our daughters. You forced her to leave, as your father forced your mother." "Yes," the word came out as a sob. "I became him. All those years swearing I'd be different. I'd never be like William Miller. But I turned into his exact copy." Group sessions were also part of the treatment. Robert began attending meetings with other men confronting their own demons of violence and control. "My father said it was love," he shared in one session, "that he controlled us because he loved us, because the world was dangerous. I told my daughters the same lies." The group offered something crucial, the chance to see one's own behavior reflected in others, to recognize patterns, and most importantly, to witness that real change was possible. A particularly meaningful day came when Robert found an old photo. Him at age 12 with his younger sisters. "I protected them from him," he told Dr. Bennett. "I'd stand in front of them when he was furious, distract him, exactly like Emily did for Olivia." What does that make you realize? That at some point, I forgot who I was. That boy who protected his sisters turned into the monster he feared. The therapy wasn't just about confronting the past. It was about developing new tools for the future. Robert learned anger management techniques, practiced nonviolent communication, worked on recognizing and interrupting toxic thought patterns. "Can I ask to see them?" he asked one day, his voice small. "Not now. I know it's too soon. But maybe someday." "That would depend on many factors," Dr. Bennett replied honestly. "Mainly their willingness. And you'd have to prove, through consistent actions, that you're safe." Robert nodded, accepting the uncertainty in a way that would have been impossible months ago. "Fair. They deserve the choice, deserve to have the control I took from them." The letters kept accumulating, exercises in brutal honesty with himself and those he hurt. In one of them, he finally managed to write to his deceased father, "You taught me that love was control, that respect came from fear, that family was property. It took me decades to realize those were all lies. Real love sets people free. Respect comes from kindness. And family? Family is a daily choice to do better. Be better." 6 months after starting treatment, Robert made a request to Dr. Bennett. "I want to record a video for them. Not to ask forgiveness. I know I don't have that right yet. But so they know I understand now that I'm trying to change." The video was recorded under careful supervision. Robert, thinner and grayer but with clearer eyes, spoke directly to the camera. "Emily, Olivia, I don't expect you to watch this now or ever. I just want there to be a record that I finally understand the harm I caused, that I acknowledge every moment of terror, every cruel word, every freedom I stole from you." He paused, taking a shaky breath. "You are not mine. You never were. You are amazing, brave people who survived the same terror I couldn't overcome as a child. You broke the cycle I perpetuated, and I'm deeply grateful for that." The video was archived, available whenever and if the girls chose to see it. Another step in Robert Miller's long journey toward redemption. Real change, Dr. Bennett explained in one of their final sessions that year, isn't just acknowledging mistakes or feeling remorse. It's doing the ongoing daily work of unlearning toxic patterns and building new ones. Robert nodded, clutching the last letter he'd written, this one to himself. "Dear Robert, you're not William Miller, but you're no longer that scared boy who became his own monster. You're learning, growing, changing, and even if you're never forgiven, even if you never see your daughters again, you have the responsibility to continue this work. Because breaking the trauma cycle, even late to see, is still better than perpetuating it. Redemption wasn't a destination, but a journey." And Robert Miller, finally free of the chains of denial and rage, was taking his first real steps along that path. The change came on a spring morning. Sarah watched the twins exploring the garden of their new home, a welcoming suburban property just outside Manhattan, chosen specifically for its family-friendly setting and discreet yet efficient security system. "It's different from the penthouse," Jack remarked, joining her on the porch. "But I think it's exactly what we need right now." Sarah smiled, watching Emily and Olivia discover a swing hanging from an old tree. The sound of their laughter, more frequent these last few months, filled the morning air. "It's perfect," she replied. "There's space to grow, to create new memories." The house had been chosen and renovated with care. Every detail was planned to create a warm, safe environment, from the soft colors on the walls to the open spaces that eliminated dark corners where fears could hide. Jack had ensured a smooth transition. Security was still present but more discreet. Modern cameras blended into the architecture, and the guards were trained to be practically invisible while maintaining constant vigilance. "Look, Mom," Emily called from the yard. "There's a perfect planter here for flowers." The idea of nurturing new life, watching something grow under their care, became therapeutic for the family. Soon, the garden was filled with colorful blooms, each flower personally chosen by the girls. The school routine also found its rhythm. After months of private tutoring to catch up, the twins were finally ready to attend a local school, a small, welcoming institution with staff trained to handle children who've been through trauma. "How was your first day?" Jack asked when he picked them up. "Different," Olivia answered, her voice growing stronger every day. "But a good different. The teacher said she liked my drawing." Emily added excitedly, "They have a science club. Can I join?" "Of course, sweetheart," Sarah smiled, recalling how before every extracurricular was a matter of fear and tense negotiations. Weekends became special family times, picnics in the yard, movie nights with plenty of laughter, board games often ending in giggles. They were all learning to simply exist together without fear or pretense. Therapy continued, now in a gentler rhythm. Dr. Santos visited twice a week, guiding everyone as they processed the transition and solidified progress. "You've built something remarkable here," she observed during a family session. A family built on choice, respect, and genuine love. The twins blossomed visibly. Emily took an interest in photography, documenting happy moments instead of constantly worrying about lurking dangers. Olivia discovered a talent for music, her voice finding strength through singing. Jack, always present but never overbearing, became a natural father figure. He helped with homework, attended school events, was there for nightmares and small celebrations alike. "You changed our lives," Sarah told him one night, after the girls had gone to bed. "Not just with resources or protection, but by showing us there's a different way to be a family." His response was heartfelt. "You changed mine too. Showed me what really matters." Robert's video arrived through Dr. Bennett a few months after they moved in. Sarah and Jack decided to store it away, until, and if, the girls wanted to watch it. "They have the right to choose," Sarah explained, "to process it in their own time." The seasons changed, and so did the family. Autumn brought excellent report cards, earned through a desire to learn, not fear. Winter saw the twins' first real birthday party, with friends from school and decorations they chose themselves. "They seem like normal kids now," one teacher commented at a conference. "They are normal kids," Jack gently corrected. "They just needed a chance to show it." Spring brought more positive changes. Sarah started a nursing course, picking up the dream interrupted years ago. The twins performed in a school play, their voices strong and clear on stage. "I'm proud of you," Sarah told them after the performance. "So proud." "We're proud of you too, Mom," Emily replied, hugging her. "For going back to college, man, for being brave," Olivia added softly. "For showing us we can always start over." Summer arrived with promises of new adventures. They planned their first family trip, a month exploring Europe, discovering places where none of them had bad memories. "Are we ready?" Sarah asked, a hint of old anxiety flaring. "More than ready," Jack assured. "And if at any point it feels off, we'll be together to handle it." Life wasn't perfect. There were still tough days, moments of sudden fear, memories that surfaced without warning. But now they had tools to cope. And, most importantly, they had each other. One particularly meaningful afternoon, Emily found an old photo album while organizing her room. Instead of hiding it, as she would have done before, she brought it for the family to view together. "Look how small we were," she commented, seeing a photo of them at 5. "So scared." "And look at you now," Jack said gently, showing a recent photo, the twins smiling on the garden swing. "The difference is love," Olivia declared, sometimes surprisingly wise. "Before it was all fear, now it's love." Sarah pulled her daughters into a hug, tears of gratitude shining in her eyes. Jack joined them, his heart overflowing with affection for this family he had chosen, and that had chosen him back. The house was now full of life. Laughter echoed down the halls. Music flowed from the piano where Olivia practiced, and the scent of homemade cookies, a new Saturday tradition, filled the kitchen. Outside, the flowers the girls had planted were starting to bloom, each one unique, each one strong, each one finding its own way to the light, just like their family. The future stretched before them, no longer a threat but a promise of more sunny days than rainy ones, more laughter than tears, more love than fear. Because in the end, that's what they had built together, not just a safe house or a reconstituted family, but a true home, a place where love needed no proof or permission, but simply existed, freely given, gratefully received, a new horizon, full of possibility, and they would face it as they did everything now, together, strong and free. On the porch, watching the sun set over their blossoming garden, Sarah sighed contentedly. "We made it, didn't we?" "We did," Jack confirmed, as the girls' laughter echoed in the background. "And this is only the beginning." The sound of Emily and Olivia's voices filled the air, carrying hope, carrying the promise of a future where they could finally be just that, two sisters with a loving family, free from fear. The federal prison's psychiatric wing still held Robert Miller, but his therapy sessions had shifted their tone. He was no longer just confronting the past. He was looking toward a future, even if it was a future he might never fully have with his family. Yet the knowledge that Emily, Olivia, and Sarah were safe, living their lives free from his grip, gave him a sense of twisted relief. He wasn't responsible for them anymore. No, that was wrong. He had never truly been responsible, only controlling. And now he was learning the difference. Dr. Bennett told him one afternoon, "Redemption doesn't mean avoiding consequences. It means accepting them and still choosing to do better every day." Robert had come to understand that he would serve his time, continue his treatment, and keep working on himself. If, in the distant future, his daughters ever chose to see him, he prayed he'd be a man capable of deserving that meeting. For now, the letters he wrote were enough. He didn't expect replies. It was enough to know he had finally broken the cycle, at least within himself. Miles away, in the cozy suburban home, life went on. The twins were busy with school, sports, music lessons, and the laughter of a life that no longer revolved around fear. Emily was flourishing academically, her natural aptitude for science shining through. She dreamed of attending a prestigious university, one of those top schools Jack had read about. Olivia's artistic side blossomed. Through singing and painting, she expressed emotions that words sometimes failed to convey. She wrote a short poem for a school assignment about finding her voice in the darkest silence and won first place. Sarah, meanwhile, excelled in her nursing courses. She was reminded every day of the reason she chose that path in the first place: to heal, to save, to protect. Jack continued running Morrison Enterprises, but with a new perspective. He delegated more, freeing time to be with the family. Board meetings were no longer the center of his life. Emily and Olivia's soccer games or recitals were sometimes, in the quiet moments after the girls went to bed, Sarah and Jack talked about the past, about the Beco alleyway where he'd first found them, about the fear that had once consumed their lives. "It feels like a different world," Sarah confessed, sipping tea on the porch. "But sometimes I still have nightmares. I see Robert's shadow lurking." Jack took her hand gently. "Nightmares fade, and if they don't, we face them together." Sarah smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes, so different from the forced smiles of the past. "Thank you," she whispered, "for showing me that not all men are monsters." Jack's chest tightened with emotion. "Thank you for letting me be part of your family." The therapist, Dr. Santos, noticed the changes too. She scheduled fewer sessions because the family was healing, learning to handle triggers on their own. Yet she remained on call whenever they needed her. One afternoon, Emily approached Dr. Santos with a question, her expression serious. "Do you think it's possible to forgive him one day? Our father?" Dr. Santos chose her words carefully. "Forgiveness is a personal process, Emily. It doesn't mean forgetting or minimizing what happened. It means deciding how much power those memories have over you." Emily nodded. "I don't know if I can. Not yet. But maybe someday. I just don't want to carry this anger forever." Olivia, who still preferred writing for deeper conversations, scribbled on her notepad, "I'm not sure I want to forgive, but I don't want him invading my thoughts every day either." The psychologist praised them for their insight. "You're allowed to choose your own path to healing, whether it includes forgiveness or not. The important thing is that you're free to decide." Over time, small reminders of Robert appeared less and less. The protective routines, checking windows, triple locking doors, gradually relaxed as the family felt safer in their new environment. Of course, the security measures never entirely went away. Jack had the resources to ensure the highest level of protection, and he saw no reason to remove them completely, but they were in the background now, not dominating their daily life. Emily and Olivia made new friends, had sleepovers and movie nights. Normal things that once seemed impossible. Parents were carefully vetted by Jack's security team, but quietly, so the twins could enjoy teenage life without constant reminders of the past. Sarah advanced in her nursing career, soon to be a licensed practical nurse. She considered specializing in trauma care, her own experiences giving her a unique perspective on patients' suffering. Jack continued balancing business with fatherhood. Some nights he worked late to close major deals, but he always made sure to be there for big moments. Emily's science fair, Olivia's art exhibition. The girls teased him gently, calling him a cool dad. Watching them banter around the dinner table, Sarah felt her heart surge with gratitude. This was what she had always wanted for her daughters, a normal life, free from constant fear. On the first anniversary of their new home, they threw a small party, just close friends and family. The twins decorated the house with bright balloons, made a banner that read, "1 year of freedom." Sarah found herself tearing up at the sight of it. 1 year ago, they were still in hiding, haunted by nightmares. And now here they were, celebrating. Jack proposed a toast, his voice thick with emotion, to Emily and Olivia, the bravest people I know, and to Sarah, who never gave up hope. "Thank you for teaching me what love and family really mean." Glasses clinked softly, and for a moment, Sarah and Jack locked eyes, silent acknowledgement of how far they'd come. The night was filled with laughter and music. Olivia sang a song she composed. Emily showed off a short video she made compiling their family's happiest moments. "I never want to forget how we got here," Emily explained, "because it reminds me that even when things are horrible, they can get better." Sarah hugged her daughters tight, overwhelmed by pride and love. Jack joined them, wrapping his arms around all three, forming a small circle of warmth. That circle, that sense of safety and unity, was what they had fought so hard for. And now it was theirs, unbreakable. As the months passed, the girls continued growing, physically, emotionally, academically. Emily, once anxious and hypervigilant, now discussed big dreams. A scholarship to MIT or Stanford. Olivia, once silent, considered attending an arts academy. Sarah supported them unconditionally, as did Jack, who promised to support any path they chose, financially, but more importantly, emotionally. "Wherever you go, whatever you do," he reminded them, "I'm here." Robert Miller's name came up less and less, though occasionally a question arose: will he get out someday, or could he still find us? The answer was always honest. Someday he might be released, but the protection doesn't end, and your safety is our top priority. You don't need to worry. The girls accepted that, trusting Jack's promises in a way they once couldn't trust any adult. Trust had become the foundation of their new life. One day, a letter arrived from Dr. Bennett, addressed to Sarah, but with Emily and Olivia's names on the envelope too. Inside was an update on Robert's treatment, a note explaining he was continuing therapy and had recorded another video, if they ever wanted to watch. Sarah showed the note to the girls. Emily folded it carefully. "Not now," she decided. Olivia nodded in agreement. "Someday," Olivia wrote, "we might want to see it, but not yet." Sarah respected their decision. Healing was a process, and they had the right to choose how and when to confront the man who had caused so much pain. They placed the note and video in a small wooden box labeled "For the Future," alongside Robert's other recorded message and the letters he had written. Their past, acknowledged but not forgotten. Instead, they focused on the present. Emily's science project was selected for a city competition. Olivia landed a solo in the school choir. Sarah started working part-time at a local clinic. Jack closed a major merger that solidified Morrison Enterprises' global position. Life was full of everyday ups and downs, but also full of promise. The big shadows that once loomed large had receded, replaced by the ordinary challenges of a family forging its own path. In a quiet moment, Sarah found Jack in the garden, gazing at the flowers the girls had planted long ago. Some were thriving, others needed replanting, but overall the garden was lush, vibrant. "Just like us," he said, sensing her presence. "Some of us took longer to heal, needed different care, but look at how we've grown." Sarah slipped her hand into his. "We did it together." He turned to look at her, eyes reflecting contentment. "Together," he repeated softly. The afternoon sun cast a warm glow over them, a reminder that storms pass, that darkness doesn't last forever. Emily's laughter rang out from inside, followed by Olivia's responding giggle. Sarah and Jack shared a smile, knowing those sounds had once been stifled by terror and silence. Now, they were free. As the years passed, the memories of their ordeal became chapters in a story of survival, resilience, and love. A story they sometimes shared cautiously to help others, to prove that escape and healing were possible. Sarah occasionally volunteered at shelters for abused women and children, offering both a listening ear and a living example of hope. Emily and Olivia, on their own initiative, collected donations and wrote letters to kids in foster care, remembering what it felt like to be unseen. Jack quietly funded programs that supported victims of domestic violence, ensuring that the resources he had once used for corporate battles now also served a more personal cause. None of them pretended trauma vanished overnight. Flashbacks still happened, triggers still lurked, but the difference was that now they faced them openly, armed with trust and professional help, never alone. "You don't have to be fearless," Dr. Santos often reminded them. "Courage is moving forward even when you're afraid." And they did move forward, each at their own pace and supporting one another with patience and unconditional love. When Emily turned 18, they threw a surprise party. She laughed, cried, and hugged everyone, marveling that once she had believed she wouldn't even live to see her teens. Olivia's 18th birthday followed a year later, celebrated with an art exhibition featuring her paintings. One painting showed two small figures huddled together under a single umbrella in a storm, the rainbow just breaking through the clouds. Sarah recognized it immediately, the twins in the alley, on that rainy Manhattan night when Jack saved them. Olivia's transformation of that dark moment into art was a testament to how far they had come. "It's called hope in the rain," Olivia explained softly, "because that's what he gave us, hope." Jack, tears in his eyes, could only nod. Sometimes words weren't enough. As the twins stepped into adulthood, Sarah and Jack realized their family was bound not by blood alone, but by choice, stronger than any abuse or trauma could break. Robert Miller was a distant memory, somewhere in a prison system, receiving therapy, writing letters they might never read. He belonged to a past they had survived. Their future lay wide open, college or careers, travel, and endless possibilities. The nightmares of the past no longer defined them. "We're survivors," Emily would say proudly, "and we're so much more than that now. We're free." Olivia sometimes wrote poems about freedom, about finding one's voice after years of silence. She performed one at a local art festival, earning a standing ovation. Sarah, standing in the crowd, felt tears of pride. Jack slipped an arm around her, equally moved. They had witnessed a miracle, two broken souls mended through love, strength, and perseverance. That night, they gathered around the kitchen table, reminiscing, laughing, dreaming. The shadows that once haunted them had no power in the warm glow of their shared life. "Remember," Jack said, raising an imaginary toast with his glass of sparkling cider, "we've faced worse storms and survived. Whatever comes next, we'll handle it." Emily clinked her glass against his. "To us, to family, to hope," Olivia added, her voice clear and confident. Sarah closed her eyes briefly, capturing that moment forever in her heart. They had made it through every threat, every bruise, every nightmare, and now they were writing a different story, a story of second chances, of love chosen again and again, of a home where fear had no place. Over time, the house filled with photo frames, pictures of graduations, holidays, silly moments, proud achievements, each snapshot a silent testimony to the life they'd built from the ashes of terror. None of them forgot the old scars, but those scars had new meaning now. They were proof of resilience, of how far they'd come, and how strong love could be in the face of cruelty. Emily often repeated Dr. Santos's words, "The trauma we survived doesn't define us, but it can guide us to be kinder, braver people." And so they lived day after day, forging a future that once seemed impossible. A future where rain no longer meant fear, but the promise of new beginnings. Because in the end, this was their story, a story of rescue that became redemption, of broken trust rebuilt, of a billionaire who found meaning in protecting two twin sisters who deserved a life free of nightmares. And most of all, it was a story about family. A family that rose from shattered pieces to stand strong and united, a testament to the unstoppable power of hope and love. They had ended the cycle of violence and in its place planted seeds of compassion, empathy, and courage. Those seeds took root, blooming into a future brighter than any of them had dared to imagine. And so, with the echoes of the past no longer controlling them, Emily and Olivia embraced the life they had fought so hard for, together with Sarah, together with Jack, knowing that the true measure of victory wasn't just surviving the darkness, but learning to dance in the light.